I'd been running on fumes for weeks. Work was swallowing me whole, deadlines stacking up, endless emails pinging like little alarms, and me dragging myself home each night too drained to even cook. So when I finally got a free weekend, it felt like I'd stolen something precious, and I wasn't going to waste it on just resting. No, I wanted to spoil myself. New clothes, maybe even a new phone since mine had a cracked screen. I needed to feel like me again. That morning over breakfast, I said it with a smile I hadn't worn in a while. I'll finally get a day to myself. I really need it. Daniel leaned in, kissed my cheek, and told me I deserved it. He added that I shouldn't wait for him. He'd be at Mark's, helping with his new computer, and he'd be back late too. It sounded casual, believable. Why would I doubt him? That's the funny thing about lies. They hide best in the everyday moments. He chuckled when I teased about the phone. "Don't spend the whole fortune," he said, grinning. "I might," I shot back, laughing. It was light, easy, the kind of back and forth that makes you think everything's fine. And I believed it. I really did. I left the house feeling like this weekend was finally mine. What I didn't realize was how fast that perfect day would twist into something I never saw coming. The city felt different that morning, almost like it was celebrating with me. Sunlight poured across the sidewalks, shop windows glimmered like promises, and I let myself drift from store to store without any rush. I tried on dresses I didn't really need, ran my fingers over fabrics that whispered luxury, and laughed at my own reflection when something looked too young for me. It was freedom in its purest form. Just me, my thoughts, and the sweet absence of responsibility. By the time I reached the phone store, my excitement was bubbling over. I'd been eyeing a new model for months, but guilt always won. Not this time. I told myself I deserved it. I ran my hand across the smooth display screen, already imagining how nice it would feel to finally text without shards of glass threatening my fingertips. Swiping that card felt like a victory, a declaration that I wasn't invisible, not even to myself. With shopping bags tugging at my arms and a shiny new phone tucked safely away, I felt lighter than I had in ages. I was almost giddy. There's something intoxicating about spending the day entirely on your own terms. It makes you forget about everything else. I thought Daniel was across town, busy with Mark's computer, and I felt relieved that we both had our plans. Little did I know, those plans weren't quite the same, and that difference was about to crack my world open. As the afternoon wore on, I started to feel the weight of my bags and the gentle ache in my feet. It was the kind of tired that felt good, the reward of spoiling myself after weeks of being stretched too thin. I slipped into a cafe for a quick coffee, scrolling through my brand new phone like a kid with a toy. Every sip, every small indulgence felt like proof that this weekend was mine to claim. When I finally stepped back outside, the air was cooler, the sky sliding into those soft evening tones. I debated heading straight home, but a thought tugged at me. Why not end the day with a nice dinner? Something special, just for me. A new restaurant had opened near the mall, and curiosity got the better of me. A little detour couldn't hurt. After all, Daniel wouldn't be home until late. I remember smiling as I walked toward the car, humming to myself, already picturing a cozy table and a glass of wine to cap off the day. Everything felt perfectly aligned, like the universe was finally giving me a break. But here's the thing about perfect moments. They rarely last. That dinner plan, the one that seemed so harmless, was about to change everything. And once it did, there was no turning back. I pulled into the parking lot of the restaurant, feeling that little flutter of excitement that comes with trying someplace new. The neon sign glowed warmly, and the place buzzed with the hum of early diners. But before I could even turn off the engine, my eyes locked on something that made my stomach clench. Daniel's car. Right there, parked neatly out front. My pulse quickened, and suddenly the air inside my car felt heavier. For a moment, I tried to laugh it off. Maybe he stopped to grab takeout before heading to Mark's. Maybe he thought I'd like a surprise. I held on to those excuses like life rafts, trying to keep the panic from breaking through. But deep down, something twisted. That sixth sense you can't quite explain, the one that whispers louder than logic. And in that whisper, I felt it. Something wasn't right. I sat there, staring at his car, torn between driving away and marching inside. My hands gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles ached. 1,000 thoughts rushed through me. Curiosity, dread, anger, fear. Finally, I told myself I just needed to see, just to ease my mind. So I pushed open the door, stepped into the cool evening air, and walked toward the entrance. Each step felt like a drumbeat, leading me closer to a truth I wasn't sure I wanted to face. The restaurant smelled of roasted garlic and fresh bread the second I stepped inside. Soft jazz floated through the air, clinking glasses and low laughter wrapping the room in warmth. I scanned the tables casually at first, pretending to be just another diner looking for a seat. But then my eyes landed on him. Daniel. My Daniel. Only he wasn't at Mark's, and he wasn't alone. There he was, leaning in close, his hand resting dangerously near hers, laughter spilling out of him in a way I hadn't heard in months. She was pretty, effortlessly so, with that polished kind of elegance that makes you feel suddenly invisible. They were sipping wine, sharing secrets in plain sight, like they were the only two people in the room. My heart stuttered, and the floor felt like it shifted beneath me. I froze, watching them from a distance, my throat tightening with every second. My mind screamed to storm out, to slam the door and leave them drowning in their lies. But my body betrayed me. I stayed rooted, staring, trying to piece together the shards of disbelief, and then, under my breath, the words tumbled out before I could stop them. You said you'd be at Mark's. Not here. With her. My chest tightened as I took a step back, the weight of what I was seeing pressing hard against my ribs. I wanted to believe there was an explanation, some twisted coincidence that would make sense if I just asked. But the way he leaned toward her, the easy grin on his face, it wasn't the smile of a man running errands for a friend. It was the smile of a man comfortable in a lie. I thought about all the mornings we'd shared coffee, all the evenings I'd waited for him to come home late, trusting every excuse he gave. And now, here he was, pouring himself into another woman's company while I stood on the sidelines of my own marriage. The betrayal didn't scream. It whispered, slow and sharp, slicing me open with its quiet certainty. I could have left right then. Slipped out the door, swallowed the truth, and pretended none of this happened. But something inside me snapped into place, cold and steady. I wasn't going to walk away. No, I was going to walk right up to that table. If he thought I'd stay invisible, he was about to learn just how wrong he was. My legs carried me forward before my mind could catch up. Each step toward their table felt deliberate, the click of my heels sharp against the polished floor, cutting through the music. I watched the color drain from Daniel's face as his eyes finally met mine. He froze mid-laugh, his glass hovering near his lips, the mask of his comfort shattering in an instant. The woman beside him shifted, clearly sensing the storm walking her way. I pasted on a smile so sweet it could rot teeth. Oh, what a coincidence, I said brightly, sliding my gaze from him to her. Daniel, fancy seeing you here. His glass clinked against the table as he set it down too quickly, his fingers fumbling like a schoolboy caught in a lie. Megan, this isn't, this is just... His words tripped over themselves, fragile and useless. Turning to her, I kept my voice light, almost cheerful. Hi, I'm Megan, his wife, and you are... I watched her stiffen, her hand pulling slightly away from the table as if burned. I'm just a friend, she stammered, her confidence cracking under the weight of my stare. I didn't hesitate. I slipped into the empty chair across from them, the legs scraping the floor like a battle drum. Perfect, I said softly. Then you won't mind if I join my husband and his friend for dinner? Daniel's nervous laugh filled the silence, but it sounded hollow, almost pitiful. Megan, this isn't... he started, his voice wobbling like a man trying to balance on thin ice. I tilted my head, eyes fixed on him, then reached for the menu with a calmness that wasn't calm at all. Relax, honey, I said smoothly. I'll order something light. Don't let me interrupt. My fingers brushed the page, but my focus never left their faces. The woman shifted in her chair, her eyes darting between us, clearly regretting every decision that led her here. I wanted her to squirm. I wanted her to feel the heat of sitting in my seat, sipping wine with my husband, playing pretend in a role that wasn't hers. She forced a smile, but her lips trembled. I savored that silence, stretching it just enough to make her skin prickle. Daniel reached for his glass, his hand shaking, the ice clinking louder than it should have. I leaned in, resting my chin on my palm, watching him fumble. "You look tense," I said softly, the corner of my mouth curling. "Is the food here not as good as you expected?" His eyes flickered, searching for an escape that wasn't there. And for the first time that evening, I felt the power shift entirely into my hands. I could see the sweat beating at Daniel's temple, his smile twitching as he tried to keep the evening from collapsing. But it was already in ruins, and he knew it. The woman beside him toyed nervously with her napkin, twisting it between her fingers like a lifeline. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. She wasn't the one I wanted to destroy, but she was going to witness it. I leaned back in my chair, crossing my legs slowly, deliberately, the way you do when you know all eyes are on you. "So," I said lightly, "what are we celebrating?" My voice lilted like I was making small talk, but underneath, every word was a blade. Daniel's throat bobbed as he swallowed, his silence louder than any confession. He couldn't even muster a lie without choking on it. The tension at that table was thick enough to taste. The music, the chatter of nearby diners, all of it blurred into background noise. It was just the three of us now, locked in a triangle no one dared to break. And I knew, deep in my bones, that this was only the beginning. I wasn't there to plead or to cry. I was there to make him unravel, piece by piece, in front of the woman he chose over me. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the table, my smile calm, but my words sharpened to a point. "So," I began, looking straight at Daniel, "how's Mark's new computer? Did you finish setting it up before dessert?" His face drained of color, his jaw working as he scrambled for a response. Well, Mark had to cancel, so," he stammered, the lie tripping over itself before it even landed. I tilted my head, letting out a soft laugh, the kind that makes your skin crawl when you know it isn't real. "Really? That's strange, because I texted Mark earlier today to thank him for keeping you busy, and he said he hasn't seen you in months." The woman's eyes snapped to Daniel, her wine glass hovering halfway to her lips. Her expression was priceless. Shock, confusion, and the dawning realization that she wasn't the only one being played. Daniel's hands shook as he set his fork down, the clatter echoing louder than it should have. I didn't let the silence linger. I wanted the knife to twist, so I turned to her, my smile widening. "You must be special if my husband is willing to resurrect imaginary computer problems just to sit here with you." She blinked, speechless, her facade cracking open for the first time. And that's when the evening truly began to spiral. The woman set her glass down slowly, her hand trembling just enough to betray her nerves. "Wait, you told me you were divorced," she whispered, her words slicing through the air like a verdict. Daniel flinched, his eyes darting between us, panic blooming across his face. I let the silence stretch, savoring the moment. Then I leaned back, crossing my arms, and smiled. "Divorced? That's funny. Our wedding photos are still hanging in the living room. Want me to show you?" Her face flushed, her lips parting in disbelief as the truth burned its way into her. She looked at him like he was something rotten, something foul she had just discovered under her shoe. Daniel stammered, reaching out toward her as if he could pull her back into his web. "No, wait. Let me explain," he begged, his voice thin, desperate. But she recoiled, grabbing her purse like it was the last ounce of dignity she had left. I didn't move. I didn't stop her. I just watched as she stood, her chair scraping violently against the floor. She threw one last look of disgust at Daniel before storming off, her heels striking the tile like gunshots. The entire restaurant seemed to pause, a few heads turning toward the scene. And in that moment, it wasn't me who looked like the fool. It was him, sitting there, exposed, abandoned, and utterly powerless. Daniel's voice broke the silence, weak and pitiful. "Megan, please, this isn't what it looks like." "She doesn't matter, I swear." I let out a slow breath, my fingers tracing the rim of my glass, calm as ever. "You're right about one thing," I said, meeting his frantic eyes. "She doesn't matter. But your lies? They do. And tonight, everyone in this room got a front row seat to them." His face crumpled, sweat glistening along his brow. He reached for my hand across the table, but I pulled it back, watching him falter. "Don't," I said quietly, the word carrying more weight than a scream ever could. He dropped his hand, shame painting every line of his face. For the first time, I saw him not as my husband, but as a stranger, a man who thought he could juggle lives without consequence. And now, his carefully built facade was collapsing right in front of him. The restaurant buzzed back to life, conversations picking up as if nothing had happened, but I felt the shift in the air. The trap had been sprung, and there was no undoing it. Daniel sat across from me, stripped bare, his mistress gone, his excuses in ashes, and I wasn't done. Not yet. The real reckoning, the one he would never forget, was still to come. Daniel leaned forward, his voice cracking like an old record. "Megan, please, it's not what it looks like. I was going to explain—" His words tumbled over each other, desperate, empty. I stood slowly, pushing my chair back with a deliberate scrape. My pulse was steady now, cold and certain. "No, Daniel," I said evenly, my voice cutting through the noise around us. "It's exactly what it looks like, and I don't need an explanation. I need a lawyer." His mouth fell open, his hands lifting in disbelief. "You're leaving me? Just like that?" he asked, as though I owed him hesitation, as though my years of loyalty weren't already payment enough. I felt a calm wash over me, the kind that comes when you finally drop a weight you've carried too long. "No, Daniel," I said, straightening my shoulders. "I'm not just leaving you." The words rolled off my tongue like a verdict I'd rehearsed my whole life. "I'm taking the house, the accounts, and my dignity back. You can keep your cheap wine and your lies." His face twisted, half anger, half fear, but I didn't flinch. For once, I wasn't the one cornered. I was the one walking away. And he knew it. I reached into my purse, pulled out a few bills, and laid them neatly on the table. Not for him, for my meal, for my choice to sit there and turn his lies into ashes. His eyes followed every movement, wide and panicked, as if money could fix what he'd broken. I didn't bother meeting his gaze. I wanted him to feel the silence, to drown in it. That silence was louder than any argument we could ever have. Daniel tried again, his voice a cracked whisper. "We can work this out, Megan. We can fix this, please." His plea clung to the air, but I had no use for it. I'd given him years of patience, trust, forgiveness, and tonight he'd cashed them all in for a cheap bottle of wine and a woman who was already gone. There was nothing left to fix, only ruins, and they were his to live in, not mine. I straightened my jacket, collected my bags, and finally looked him in the eye. "You wanted a dinner for two," I said, my voice steady, almost kind. "But now it's dinner for one. Enjoy it." The words lingered between us like smoke. I turned, feeling every step pull me further from the wreckage he created, further toward a life that was finally mine again. The cool night air hit me as I stepped outside, a rush of freedom filling my lungs. Behind me, the restaurant doors closed with a soft thud, sealing Daniel inside with his lies. I didn't look back. Not once. For the first time in years, I felt lighter, like I'd slipped out of a skin that never truly fit me. Every stride I took toward my car was a stride toward myself. The city hummed around me, headlights streaming past, laughter spilling from bars, life carrying on as though nothing monumental had just shifted. But inside me, everything had changed. I wasn't the woman begging for scraps of attention anymore. I wasn't the fool in the dark. I was the one who had walked into the fire, faced it head-on, and walked out untouched, stronger than I'd ever imagined. I slid into the driver's seat, set my bags beside me, and gripped the wheel with steady hands. A small smile tugged at my lips as I thought of tomorrow, of lawyers, of a new chapter waiting to be written. Daniel could keep his wine, his stories, his empty charm. Me? I was already planning a life without him, a life that was finally mine to claim.